Okay, folks, here we are again. My favorite topic in the world. Yay, race, black people, racial stereotypes. Yeah. John Boyega reacts to Idris Elba refusing to call himself a black actor. We should fixate on who's putting actors in boxes. First, let me say, you know, this, I won't take this out of context because I think both actors are correct here, and I'll get into why. Now, Idris Elba is someone that we've seen in the past who's had commentary on race. A while back, I did a video about Luther. There was someone in Britain, I don't recall whom, who had a problem with the portrayal of Idris Elba's character of Luther, arguing that the character was generic and did not have any kind of cultural affiliation. It was just a generic role. It wasn't a black role. And of course, we later find out Idris Elba intentionally made sure this was the case. Now, Idris Elba has been the subject of many criticism in the past, chiefly, the James Bond that never was and likely never will be. But here he is again. So for those who don't know what this controversy is about, so Idris Elba ignited a firestorm on social media after he told Esquire UK that he has stopped calling himself a black actor because it creates limitations for his career. While some accused Idris Elba of renouncing his blackness, oh dear God, others came to the Luther actor's defense and agreed with him regarding Hollywood's penchant to put labels on and stereotype black actors. Star Wars alum John Boyega recently took to Twitter to tell his followers that Elba's detractors were having the wrong takeaway from his comment. So his comment was, I think we should fixate on who is typecasting and putting actors in boxes because of this. Boyega wrote, not on making weird adjustments for them. We continuously focus on what we have to do so they don't do this or that. Very worrying. We black and that's it. So I have issues with, well, Boyega's comment, at least at first. I understand what Boyega is saying, but I do also notice that Boyega in the last few years has become more race obsessed, which is tricky because he's Nigerian, of Nigerian heritage, and often African blacks are not as race obsessed. I think Boyega has borrowed heavily from a lot of African American race consciousness. And this obviously puts him in conflict with the majority of many black African descended actors. I mean, people like Idris Elba, who's also of direct West African descent. But I think, the point that Idris Elba is making is a relevant point, and I've had to go to war with people on social media suggesting that Idris Elba is suggesting that he's not black. Idris Elba is black. He's very black. He's not Meghan Markle black. He's not Vin Diesel black. He's not Mariah Carey black. He's black. He cannot deny his blackness. He cannot hide his blackness. If you look at Idris Elba, you'll see a black man. If you don't know who Idris Elba is and you Google him, you'll see a very black man. This notion that he's somehow trying to renounce his blackness is just completely idiotic. And it's difficult to explain to people why, being black is not a personality trait. It says nothing about who you are as a person, your idiosyncrasies, your personality, your character. It doesn't say anything about you. Often the term black as a prefix for anything or as a descriptor of anything usually has negative connotations. Like seriously, usually it's filled with a lot of racial stereotypes. The black actor is an actor who is limited, which is what Idris Elba was saying. He's limited to playing stereotypical roles. What Idris Elba wants is to play a wide variety of roles. He wants to play the type of roles that Leonardo DiCaprio would play, roles that allow him to play a wide variety of personalities, the quirky guy, the weird guy, the naturalist loner who hangs out in the woods with animals. He wants to play, the scientist, the physicist. He doesn't want to play a stereotypical aggressive black thug, which is usually what they mean by black actor. It's usually someone who's just playing a racial stereotype. And it's sometimes difficult to explain to many Black people, especially African Americans, that this is not a personality trait, that your race is a separate entity from who you are. Idris Elba is not denying his blackness because he cannot do that. He will always be black, and he's the first to tell you that. In fact, later he responds to people accusing him of doing this very idiotic thing by saying, there isn't a soul on earth that can question whether I consider myself a black man or not. Being an actor is a profession like being an architect. They are not defined by race. However, if you define your work by your race, that is your prerogative. A lie. And he is right. And this is exactly what I've been saying. He's an actor. I've had to tell people that he's not a civil rights activist. He's an actor. And as an actor, he should be able to play a wide variety of roles regardless of his race. And what he's saying is just the phrase, again, black actor comes with some confinements, some restrictions, some stereotypes that have nothing to do with anything. As humans, we are obsessed with race, and that obsession can really hinder people's aspirations, hinder people's growth. Racism should be a topic for discussion. Sure, racism is very real, but from my perspective, it's only as powerful as you allow it to be. I stopped describing myself as a black actor when I realized it put me in a box, the actor said. We've got to grow, our skin is no more than that. It's just skin. Rant over. Brilliant, brilliant. Mwah. And this is what many people are saying. And I see this attitude, so he thinks that he can just escape being black. No, he cannot escape being black, and nor is he saying that he might never be subjected to racism. I don't know this man. He might have been subjected to racism. What he's saying is that being subjected to racism and the very real existence of racism won't stop him from being who he is. And I see this defeatist attitude often with African Americans, often, perpetuated and exploited by many activist types, where they believe that, well, they basically hinder themselves. They basically restrict themselves on the fear that they may be subjected to racism. You've seen this attitude. Well, tell the white man that. Well, you think you're not black? Well, wait till the cops stop you. This belief that because you might be subjected to racism, it somehow means you need to go along with every kind of racist stereotype that exists out there. I've seen it with, black women defending trans activists. Well, the fear is that evil white women may call you a man, so might as well you associate with trans-identified males because, well, racism. And this belief that racism should somehow prevent you from living your life is just crippling. It's mentally defeatist. It's mental slavery, the irony of it. And what Idris Elba is saying is that, yes, I might face racism, but that doesn't mean I'm going to stop living and aspiring and being a person. It's like the person who says, well, I'm getting ready to win this. I'm getting ready to run this race. But you choose not to run the race because you overhear someone saying, well, if that N-word wins this race, we're going to cheat him. And you go, well, I'm going to be cheated because I'm black, so I'm not going to run the race. And this is the wrong attitude. What people like me are saying is run the race anyway, because at least you give people who will be willing to defend you something to work with. If you don't run the race, you don't get to complain about how, well, I didn't run the race because I feared I would suffer from racism. That's not the way it works. Run the race anyway. And that's the only way you're worthy of being defended. If you run that race and you were legitimately cheated, you cannot stop living your life because you fear racism. This doesn't make any sense. You cannot limit yourself because the evil white man is going to do it anyway. And going back to the point that John Boyega made about, it's not, what John Boyega said here was, yeah, not on making weird adjustments for them. I think we should fixate on who is typecasting and putting actors in boxes. Now, John Boyega is the same actor from Star Wars who was intentionally shortchanged by Disney. So he knows what he's talking about. He was in the recent Disney reboots of Star Wars. At first, they played his role up as if he was going to be very important, and then they subsequently sidelined him. And ultimately, even to promote the film in China, they basically pushed him out of the movie posters and made his poster image much smaller to downplay the fact that he was black. So he was legitimately shortchanged, and I suspect this is probably what broke John Boyega, why he's become more racially conscious, because he's been very outspoken about what Disney did to him, and how they kind of, subjected him to that racism, where they basically put him there to be the token black sidekick, um, humor character, which is not what he felt he signed up for. And in fact, they did make it seem as if he would be more important than that. But the point he's making is focus on the people doing the typecasting. Yes, I understand that the people doing the typecasting, because the people with the power are going to judge you the way they judge you. And typecasting is a natural part of Hollywood. There are certain actors who are stuck playing certain roles, regardless of race. Like Robert De Niro is always the mafia mobster guy. So they rarely do, get away from typecasting in Hollywood. And then you add racial elements to that, where as a black actor, you represent certain stereotypes for them. And I understand that. But at the same time, both perspectives can be true at the same time. You can, in fact, challenge people to not typecast you, to confront those doing it, and to say, hey, stop doing that. But you can also insist on not going along with those typecasting. You insist on demanding better. I'm reminded of a scene in the 2006 film Crash. There's a scene in the film between Terrence Howard's character and Tony Danza's character. And Terrence Howard, I think he plays the director-producer of a film that Tony Danza's character is starring in. And Tony Danza's character kept complaining to him about a black actor in the film. So apparently the young black actor was hired to play a thug, the typical stereotypical black thug character. But Tony Danza's character realized that the black actor in the role wasn't going along with it, that instead of using Ebonics and African American vernacular, he was instead speaking in proper standard English. And Tony Danza's character had a problem with that. And Terrence Howard's character, who's the producer, had to deal with this. What does this mean? So because he kept, getting complaints about Tony Danza's character saying, hey, this character is not playing the thug that he was hired to play. He's speaking in standard English. It's not authentic. He's not supposed to be intelligent. It kind of poses that situation where you realize what being a black actor means, because he was hired to play a stereotype, but obviously the actor, for whatever reason, didn't want to go along with it. But this is probably what John Boyega is saying. This is also what Idris Elba is saying, that this is what it means to be a black actor. But you have to both challenge the people imposing these rules on black actors, as well as be willing to stand up to this as a black actor. So both of these guys are right. And people mistook John Boyega's response as a kind of attack on Idris Elba, but that's clearly not what was happening. He was just saying, we need to kind of look at it from both ends. It's good that Idris Elba doesn't want to stereotype himself as a black actor, because again, I can't stress this enough, the least important aspect of who you are is your race or your identity. It doesn't say anything about you, and Idris Elba would be great playing a wide variety of roles. And he knows that, so what he's saying is, hire me for being a person. And this is what he did with his Luther role. Hire me for my talent and my skills, not because I represent some stereotype. Obviously, you're never going to get fully away from typecasting in Hollywood. I don't think it's necessarily believable for Idris Elba, for example, to play a dainty little dork character, because he looks like a man, but he's saying, I'm more than just a racial stereotype. And yes, so we can have it. Anyway, I just want to say, for the idiots claiming that he's denying being black, you're an idiot. You're an idiot. That's all I'm saying. He cannot deny being black. He will always be black. But that doesn't mean he needs to define being black according to stereotypes. That's all. Anyway, that's all I have to say about this, and let me know what your thoughts are. And yeah, subscribe.